Good afternoon. I am so happy and pleased and proud to welcome you all to Finding the Better Angels of Our Nature. We're going to begin the program with an invocation presented by Anna Weiss. And Anna is a sophomore at Loyola College. She's 19 years old. She began dancing when she was 5, and I've known her since she was 6. So and she's a wonderful dancer. It's my privilege to present Anna Weiss. Thank you, Anna. That was lovely. So here we are at Finding the Better Angels of Our Nature, the 11th gathering at Keystone College. This week, I had an email from a friend in Atlanta. She's an Episcopal priest, and she sent me a video clip about a near tragedy that happened, or almost happened, in Panama City Beach, Florida. I think this was last Saturday. Excuse me. A riptide had carried 10 people out into the ocean beyond the surf line. And when they realized that they were so far out, they began calling for help. And as no help came and they were carried farther out, they began screaming. People tried to swim out to them to reach them, but they couldn't overpower the tide. And so really almost without planning, the other bathers on the beach began to form a human chain that reached all the way out to these people who were beginning to struggle and to go under the waves. They held hands, they connected their elbows, however they could anchor themselves to reach out to them. One by one, the 10 were rescued. This included a family of 6, 3 children, their parents, and a grandmother. And afterwards, the rescuers admitted, several of them, that they didn't know how to swim. And yet, it didn't deter them from volunteering to help. And my friend, whose name was Tricia, reminded me that her husband, Joe, had been rescued the year before in a very similar selfless act. And she ended her note with a reminder to look for ways to pay it forward. So I've been thinking a lot about selflessness and worrying that we've lost our ability in this country to set aside our own egos for the common good, which of course is what we're here to focus on this weekend. How to find common ground among many deeply divided factions that have seemed to explode over the recent months and years. Really in every area of our lives. I've begun to wonder whether it's possible to find common ground at all. People seem to be more intent on carving out ideological territory and defending it. This is in healthcare, in education, in the environment, religion, science, and of course, politics. But I keep reminding myself that politics is like a basket for all of those other things, all of the fractures in American life, and just about everything important sooner or later becomes politicized and therefore newsworthy. So that's why we know about so much about all of these things, because they have been politicized and they have been made newsworthy. Our democratic system, of course, is built on what has always seemed a universal truth, that people will compromise to make the government function. It implies that what we used to take for granted, that most people are of goodwill and will bend for the sake of the common good. There have been other times, of course, when the failure to compromise has jeopardized our ability to function as a nation, most notably over the abolition of slavery, which in 1861 led to the Civil War. And recently, compromise has become even more elusive because truth itself has come under fire. It's not a prosecutable offense to lie in the news media. And the proliferation of fake news has muddied the waters to the extent that truth has become such a slippery commodity, it's difficult even to attempt to compromise unless we can agree on what the facts are. It's almost as though arguments over the facts on vaccinations, climate change, gun use in America, education, regulation of business, the value of art and literature, religion, voting, campaigning, almost everything else has turned the news media into what feels like a fractured mirror that reflects back at us different truths to different people according to what we already believe. Our rifts and ridges are so profound that people have begun to whether we'll soon come together or whether we can even find common ground so that life will go on as normal. But most people are coming to believe that this fractured landscape is the new normal. The old order has passed, never to return, and we now face the sixth extinction, the age of controversy, a time when making plans to colonize Mars seems more feasible than agreeing to save the Earth. An article in the New York Times a few weeks ago reminded us that John F. Kennedy said in September of 1961, when nuclear attack seemed not just feasible, but almost probable, he warned, "Today, every inhabitant of this planet must contemplate the day when this planet may no longer be habitable. Every man, woman, and child lives under a nuclear sword of Damocles, hanging by the slenderest of threads, capable of being cut at any moment by accident or miscalculation or by madness. The weapons of war must be abolished before they abolish us." And we could say the very same thing today about more things like global warming and the many other dangerous things that we have to bring up our children and grandchildren among. So the challenge for us here at the gathering is the same that everyone else in this country faces: to put aside our most dearly held beliefs and turn to those across the divide, find ways to respect them, find credible ideas in their thinking, hope that goodwill begets goodwill. It's really a leap. But before we jump, we must remember the human chain last Saturday at Panama City Beach, and remember the white helmets in Syria who travel from bomb site to bomb site, digging people out of the rubble. They've saved more than 100,000 civilians. And the video clip on Facebook of a street construction worker who climbed down through a sewer grate to rescue 6 ducklings and return them to their frantic mother. Look for the ways to pay it forward, and let's have a wonderful weekend. Thank you. Sorry, it's my great pleasure to present Charlotte Ravioli.
That was funny. Thank you, Suzanne. I'm here to welcome you on behalf of Dr. David Coppola, who could not be with us, but will join us later in the day. He's delighted that you've all come back to Keystone for the 11th annual gathering and hope that you have a wonderful weekend. I have some announcements, but first I'd like to introduce to you the faculty who are among us today. First, Steve McIntosh, Integral Consciousness. He'll be speaking after lunch. Steve, will you wave to us? Constance Garcia Barrio and Linda Wisniewski, who are doing a workshop on racial healing. Jennifer Michael Hecht, who's doing a feature presentation and a poetry workshop. Dana Shaven, is Dana here? Dana and Daryl maybe are not quite here yet, but Dana is going to be doing a workshop on memoir called The Trouble with Brains, Writing in Spite of It All. Sylvie Simmons, the rock chick, she's going to do a presentation, and Leonard Cohen, and also a workshop this afternoon. Ellen Carroll, who's doing a presentation tomorrow at 11 o'clock. I love the title, How Awfully Forgiving of Me. Bill Carter, Reverend Bill Carter, who's a jazz specialist. He's doing a workshop tomorrow afternoon and a presentation on Dave Brubeck. Kevin Cregan is doing a workshop on DreamWorks. I don't think Kevin is with us today. Gail Carson Levine, who's doing a workshop on writing for children. And Daryl Thetford, whose work you see surrounding this room. He is our artist in residence. And he is going to be working at the end of this hallway inside the President's Dining Room all weekend, and he would love to talk to you about his work and meet you. So keep an eye out for Daryl Thetford, okay? I have a couple of announcements. If you have not signed up for workshops yet, or if you would like to change the workshop that you've signed up for, there is a sign-up sheet on the registration desk. So you might want to confirm what you're signed up for, or sign up if you have not yet. Dinner tonight will be in this room. However, we have had to move the location for the Mara Eliason presentation because we had so many people sign up. So we will be here for dinner, and then we will walk down to Brooks Theater, which is just a little bit across campus. At Susan Beeland's suggestion, we have reserved the first 4 rows for those of you who are here for the whole weekend, and then the people from the community can sit behind us. We'll be privileged people for a little while this afternoon. Last, there are book sales going on this weekend. They are at the registration desk, and they will be in the back of this room between 5 and 6. And Bill Carter has brought some CDs that he hopes that you would take a look at. So I think we're ready to go. We'll begin lunch, and we'll be back here at 1:30 for Stephen's presentation. Thank you. Oh, sorry, Donald.
Hi, could you just make a general announcement about anybody who's interested in reading poetry tomorrow?
Sure. Each morning at 9 o'clock, we do poems and announcements. And if you have a poem that you would like to read, whether it's your own or someone else's, please let Donald know. We try to limit everybody to 2 minutes because we have a number of people. So if you would like to read a poem of your own or someone else's, please see Donald. Also, if there are any announcements, that Donald waves his glorious hand among us all. And if there are announcements that you feel need to be made, please see me, and I will then make those announcements before we begin our day. Okay? Lunch is next.